Hello and welcome to the band. You're about to start on a great journey where you'll learn a new instrument. The next few videos will show you how to make your first sounds, how to play some notes, how to put together your instrument, how to take care of it, and how to be part of the band. So, grab your instrument and all your supplies, and let's get started. Okay, so this is the clarinet case. This is kind of an older clarinet, so the case is a little bit more beat up. But when you're opening an instrument case, you always want to be sure that it's on a nice flat surface. Like we have just a table here, and so it's nice and flat. Don't open it on your lap or on a music stand. That's always a bad idea because it could fall and you could drop your instrument and then things break and then it's not fun to play anymore because your instrument doesn't work. So always set it either on the floor or on a table that's nice and solid. Okay, so when you open up the clarinet case, be sure that you are looking for the top of the case. Most brands will have some kind of brand labeling on the front of on the top of the case that shows that that is the top of the case. Now, if you look at this one, there's nothing on the bottom, so we're going to assume that this is the bottom part of the case. Now, if you don't have any labeling, like the only reason this one has labeling is because that's the music store that labeled the top there. If you don't have any labeling like that, another way to tell with a bigger case like this, like a clarinet or a saxophone or a trumpet case, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, you'll see right here, the top part of the case is a lot shallower than the bottom part of the case. You can see how that's a lot deeper. Sometimes the switches will go one way or the other, so you can't tell with the switches all of the time. In this case, you know, the switch actually moves up when you open the case, but a lot of times they'll flip down when you open the case as well. So for this one, just look for that smaller, shallower area, and that way you know it's sitting right side up. So then you open up your case, and then you'll see everything that you need for playing the clarinet. The parts of the clarinet, you've got, this is the barrel. It's a very small piece that connects to the mouthpiece, and we'll show you that in a minute when we put it all together. This is obviously the mouthpiece, like I mentioned just now. This little piece on here is really important. It's important that you hold on to this and don't drop it. It's a thin little piece of metal. These get stepped on and broken so easily. So be sure that you're holding on to this. This is called the ligature. The next piece is the top joint piece. So this is going to be just underneath the barrel and the mouthpiece. These are the top buttons that your left hand will push. This is the bottom joint, or the bottom part of the clarinet, and these are the buttons that your right hand will push. And you'll see on the back, there's this little knobby thing right here. That's a thumb rest right there. And then the very last piece of it, of our clarinet, is the bell. And the bell goes right down at the very bottom of your clarinet. So when you are putting together the clarinet, be sure that you're not, grabbing the rods and pressing the rods, because these little rods have lots of little springs on them, and they can get bent really, really easily. So you want to be sure that when you're putting it together, you're not putting a ton of pressure on those rods. With the clarinet, it's really challenging because there's really nowhere else to hold it, because there's rods everywhere. So I'll show you how to do that carefully. So now we're ready to put together the instrument. Something really important when you're putting together the clarinet is you have this cork right here. This cork gets dried out over long periods of time. And so you want to be sure that that's nice and moist. If it's not moist, then it starts to decay and fall apart, and pretty soon you don't have a cork. The reason you need to have a cork is because it helps hold the joints together. So we have cork grease. The cork grease helps keep the cork moist. So in order to apply cork grease, we just kind of dab a little bit on there. A little bit like putting on chapstick, only you're going to put in a lot more than you do with chapstick. And then we'll kind of set this down. With our cork, with the grease on it, now just kind of work that in gently with your fingers so that it kind of gets spread all the way around. So once you get that worked into your cork, then it will maintain its moisture and it won't fall apart. Because you don't want it to fall apart because then your instrument won't stay together. So you need to be sure to keep your corks all maintained. On the clarinet, there's a number of them. So be sure that you do that before you get started with putting things together. That will make things last a lot longer and it'll make it easier to put the instrument together as well. When you're done, you can just wipe your fingers on a towel or a cloth or something like that. There's a couple of really key parts with putting the clarinet together. I have here a couple of examples of reeds and their cases. The reed is a little wooden piece that goes on the mouthpiece that vibrates against the mouthpiece, and that's what creates the sound. The reed is a critical part to making the clarinet actually work. If you have a broken reed or an old reed or a reed that for any reason wouldn't work, it's not going to vibrate and it's not going to create a sound, or it's going to be really, really hard to start making a sound on. So you want to be sure that this part of the instrument you take a lot of care of, because this is the part that actually makes the sound. The rest of the instrument just helps it. So when you buy a new reed, it's going to come in a little plastic case like this one. It's a fine case, but I would recommend getting a little black case like this because it has grooves in it. It allows the reed to dry a little bit better and more evenly so you don't get kind of this wavy motion coming out of the tip of your reed. Because when that happens, it doesn't work quite as well as it should. So I would suggest getting a small black reed case to hold your reed. So when you get started, the first thing you do when you open up your case, gently get your reed out, and you're going to put it in your mouth gently because teeth are killer on reeds. I myself have killed a whole bunch of reeds by just accidentally bumping them against my teeth. So be sure that when you put it in your mouth, you do it gently. And you want to get both sides of the reed wet. So while you're putting together your instrument, just put the reed in your mouth like that and continue to put together the rest of your instrument. So now, while you're getting your reed moist, we're going to put together the instrument. I like to start with the bottom joint and the bell because they're kind of the easiest parts and you're building a foundation. It's something that will help you put together the rest of the instrument. So I like to hold my clarinet in such a way where I can push these keys down with my fingers here and kind of cup the clarinet like that. That way I'm not going to be bending any of those rods that have to be straight so that your instrument works. And then just gently kind of push from the bottom and twist a little bit. And if you've applied your cork grease the right way and if it's nice and moist, it should go on fairly easily. If it goes on really, really easy, then you might need a new cork. If it goes on too hard, then you can actually take it off and you can get a little piece of really fine sandpaper and just sand down the cork a little bit and then put cork grease on it again so that it makes just a little bit of space. It doesn't take much. Maybe get a little bit of really fine sandpaper and just give it a little twist and then try it. If that wasn't enough, a little twist more and try that again. And then it should go on really easy without having to really hunker down on it. Okay? So now the next piece that we're going to put on is the top joint. So now that I have the top joint and I have my bell put with the bottom joint and all of my corks greased really well, not excessively, but pretty greased, then you're able to put on this top part. Now you have to be very careful here because there's a little bar here and a little bar here that have to go the right way. So the top piece, that bar is going to go on top of the bar on the bottom. Okay, for this next part, I like to take just the barrel and the mouthpiece and put those together before putting that on the rest of the instrument. So first, take off the ligature because, like I said, it's kind of fragile, and so you don't want to get damaged while you're trying to put these two pieces together. So you take that off, and then you simply just, if you have enough cork grease, you kind of put those two pieces together, and you have the barrel and the mouthpiece together. And then just go ahead and slip your ligature right back on like that. Then you'll go ahead and put this on the other part of the body. So now with the other part of the body and the barrel and the mouthpiece combination all put together, we're going to put these two together, and it should just slip together nice and easy. I like to hold it about in the middle of the clarinet, just very gently, and then put the bell against my leg while I put this portion on. That way it goes together nice and easy. You don't have to try really hard. And again, if your corks are greased enough, it's going to slip right on it. It should be really easy. Then from there, you'll get your reed, and you'll put your reed on. Okay, now at this point you need to have your reed, and you'll put that here on the mouthpiece. Now if I put that in light, you can see that there's edges to the mouthpiece. That's called the rails. So your reed, will fit right flat to those rails. And you want to be sure that the reed kind of matches the top of your mouthpiece. So once you've loosened up these screws in your ligature, you just kind of slip it in here like that. And then you use both hands, and you get it so that it kind of lines up right there at the top of your mouthpiece. And then slide that down gently. Now your ligature, it should go below right here. There's kind of a line. You can see a little bit of a cut right there in your reed. So you want that to go below that part. And then you just tighten up your ligature. It doesn't have to be super duper tight. Just tight enough to hold everything together, and then you're ready to go. Okay, now the next part is actually making a sound on the clarinet. So you have to be sure that your lips are shaped the same way. That's called the embouchure, the shape of your lips, the kind of formation that your lips make in order to create a sound. So on the mouthpiece of the clarinet, you will gently place the reed side. This actually goes towards your body. So you'll place the reed side gently on your bottom lip. Your bottom lip creates kind of a cushion. So you gently place it on and then roll it into your mouth. That will make so that your lips are a little bit of a cushion between the reed and your teeth. And then you'll just bring the corners of your mouth and the top of your mouth down around the top of the mouthpiece. Your top teeth will actually touch the top of the mouthpiece, just like that. Now on my clarinet, I actually have a little rubber piece right here to kind of protect the mouthpiece, but it also helps me know where I should be putting my teeth. So if you were to put it on, and then I put my finger where my teeth are, that's about how much mouthpiece needs to go in your mouth right there. So place it upon your lip, teeth down, and then close the lips. And make it nice and firm like you're saying T-oo. And you've made your first sound. One thing you want to think about, you can either think of it in one of two ways. You can either think about it, your chin being really flat, or other students that I've had do better when they think about pressing their bottom lip against their teeth. But be sure that everything's firm. Now you don't need to squeeze down really hard, but it needs to be nice and firm. So now that you know how to make a sound on your instrument, it's time to learn how to hold it. So your left hand is going to be the hand that's on the top. So there's a button back here on the clarinet that is for your thumb. And so your thumb kind of covers up that hole. Be sure that you use kind of the flat part of your fingertip to cover up all the holes so that they all get covered. Try not to use the very tip of your finger like where your fingernail is, because you're going to have a hard time getting that hole to cover up. So use kind of the flat part here of your fingertip. So the thumb goes on that back key. The first finger goes on the first open hole right here, and then the second open hole and the third. It's pretty straightforward with the clarinet because there's open holes that you cover up with your fingers. So your left hand goes on top like that. For our beginning lesson, our right hand isn't going to do a whole lot. Our thumb sits right here underneath our thumb rest. That's why it's called a thumb rest. And then these three fingers, well, and your pinky, will just kind of hover over the keys you have here. There's 3 holes that are open for your first 3 fingers to cover, and we'll need those later. So just kind of hover over those holes so you don't cover them up, but that they're close and not really far away from the clarinet like that. So pushing down your thumb in the back, the first finger, second finger, and third finger like that, covering up the holes using the flat part of your finger. And then put your clarinet up on and roll it in. Put your teeth down and wrap around. And that's your very first note. So now we're going to show you your very first notes. So with your hands in the proper place for C, use a lot of air, take a big breath kind of from your tummy and open up really big, and then exhale really fast like that. Let's do that again. In and out. And push the air all the way out right here from your tummy. You can kind of see that if I were to turn to the side and I had my clarinet out, you can kind of see my tummy move. And out. We have to use really, really good air when we're playing the clarinet. You can also imagine that there's a candle on the floor in front of you, and you're trying to blow that out through your clarinet. You want to be sure you push a lot of air through. Just like that. So your first note is C. The next note that we're going to teach you is very, very similar to C. The only thing you need to do is lift up your ring finger here on the left hand. Then it's the same thing as C, just one less finger, and that note is called D. The next note is very similar to D and C, but just like D, we lifted up that finger. Now with E, we lift up our middle finger. So now we're basically kind of pinching it. There's only a thumb and our first finger. Now don't pinch it really hard. We don't need to hold it really hard. It's just a nice, light, gentle kind of pinch. And there's E. Now, a couple of things you want to avoid as a clarinet player. Many beginners think that the clarinet needs to go right next to their body. That's going to make it really, really hard to get the note out right, and you hear kind of some high-pitched squealing. And then other people have seen some really great clarinet players, clarinet players like Benny Goodman. They get really into playing, and sometimes they get playing their clarinet way out here. Although that might be fine for Benny Goodman because he's been playing for a really long time, or rather had been playing for a really long time. He was used to that and he could do it. But as a beginning clarinet player, you want to angle it out just a little ways away from your body. If you were sitting, you could imagine that there's a ruler going across your knees and the bell just rests right on that ruler. So not too high and not close to your body. And remember, when you play an instrument, you play the instrument, not the other way around. Many beginners want to reach for the instrument and play like this. When we do that, we make it so that our backs are not straight. If I turn to the side and do this, and I reach for it, you can see that my neck has just gone out of alignment. And with that, there's my throat and everything like that makes the air flow freely. And if it gets kinked, then it's not going to flow freely. So we've got to stand up straight and tall with our clarinet out. And play with lots of air, just like that. So now that you're done playing the clarinet, you've mastered those 3 notes and you're a little bit tired, it's time to put the clarinet away. There's a few things that you need to do before you put it away every single time. So the clarinet likes to accumulate some moisture. When we blow hot air through instruments, we create condensation, and so the inside of the clarinet gets wet. And a little bit of saliva also goes into the instrument, so we want to be sure that everything is cleaned out. Remember, when you play an instrument, eating food, and especially sugary foods right before you play, is usually not a very good idea. So if you can, rinse out your mouth or brush your teeth before you play so that you can get rid of the sugars and the food in your mouth so that you don't put that into the instrument. So when you're done and we're ready to put the instrument away, we need to clean that moisture and that gunk out. So we have a cleaning rag, and this cleaning rag has a little weight built into it here on the end. And we'll just put that weight down through the bell, and then we pull it through very gently one time, and I would even go 2 times with this. Two. Now you'll notice I took the barrel and the mouthpiece off. I don't like to pull the rag through your mouthpiece and your barrel together, and so we'll do that part next. So now that I have my mouthpiece and my barrel, I'll take off my reed very gently. I like to kind of lick any of the condensation off of that. And then I'll gently put that back in my reed case. So that way it will dry out evenly. Now with the mouthpiece and the barrel, we'll get rid of our ligature. I'll put that over here. And now we'll pull our mouthpiece and our barrel apart. And I do like to run the cleaning rag through just the barrel. So I'll put that through the barrel there. Run that through, kind of clean out the joint a little bit. And now that's all dried out. So we set that aside. Now with the mouthpiece. You don't want to pull your cleaning rag all the way through the mouthpiece. So to kind of get some of that moisture, I put the end through, and then I'll pull it through so there's a little bit in the mouthpiece, but I don't want it to be tight at all. I want it to just barely be in there, and I kind of press it a little bit, maybe work it around a little so I can get some of that moisture out of there. And then I'm going to pull my string very carefully right back through. So that way it gets the moisture and all the gunk out of the mouthpiece as well. And then you just take all of your pieces and you gently put them back in their case right where you found them. Close the case, and you're done till you start again tomorrow.